So what is your thought process now after watching the entire video? I hope you watched the entire video, because if you didn't, then you're not going to know what's in the loop.
What the United States and Donald Trump just did to Iran does not mean World War III is officially started. You all need to chill the fuck out. The United States just bombed the ever-living shit out of 3 different nuclear sites in Iran, and now everybody on this app thinks that this is the catalyst that has brought us into World War III. Well, hang on to your butts, because I'm going to explain to you how this whole situation does not mean World War III has begun, and I'm going to explain it as best as I can, like you're a kindergartner, because no offense, some of you have let this app rot your brain so much that you have lost all ability to logically put a single thought together. So, what happened? Well, Donald Trump authorized United States B-2 bombers to eliminate 3 separate sites where Iran was developing their nuclear capabilities. What was the result? Total destruction. These nuclear test sites are now nothing more than a pile of rocks, and the craziest part is this mission was pulled off so quickly and efficiently that the B-2 bombers were in and out of Iranian airspace before literally anyone on the planet even knew that they were there. Now, why did the United States do this? The short answer? Because Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Period. End of story. And why can't they, or why are they not allowed to have a nuclear weapon? Well, it's simple. You see, ever since Iran was taken over by a terrorist regime government in 1979, this terrorist-run government has had one mission ever since, and that is to wipe Israel off the map. That is a direct quote. Now again, let me make this as clear as I can for the class so that you all understand. Regardless of what you feel about Israel, any country that has the intent of completely removing another sovereign state off the face of the earth cannot have a nuclear weapon, because if they were to ever have such a weapon, they would then use that weapon to achieve its goal of wiping Israel off the map, and most likely proceed to use more of those weapons to eliminate other Western nations that do not share the same extremely radical ideologies that the terrorist-run government of Iran believes in. Remember, kids, Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism for the whole world. The government of Iran, they are not the good guys. They are the bad guys. These are the people who would throw you off of a building if you're a member of the gay community. They would force you, if you're a woman, to be married by the age of 13. They would stone you to death if you show any part of your skin. They commit the most despicable and atrocious acts of terrorism that the world has ever seen, simply for you believing in a religion that is different from their own. The terrorist-run regime of Iran is evil, and therefore they cannot have a nuclear weapon. What Donald Trump and the United States just did was eliminate any possibility of Iran being able to produce a nuclear weapon. But what about World War III? Isn't this an act of war? No, it's not. For some reason, all of you have been fear-mongered into this belief that World War III is here, and what Donald Trump did solidifies that. You all have this weird, almost romanticized version of this modern-day World War that would be similar to World War II, where it'd be this huge situation where it's going to be the United States, England, France, Canada, and the United Nations versus Iran, Russia, China, North Korea. I'm sorry to tell you that is nothing more than some Call of Duty fantasy that the media wants you to believe will inevitably happen, but it's simply not the case. Russia has not pledged any type of military support to Iran, even in the wake of this situation. They're also in the middle of their own war with Ukraine, where certain news outlets are reporting that Russia has lost close to 1 million members of their own military in the Ukraine conflict. They might support Iran's desire to develop nuclear technology for civilian use such as energy, but they are not in any position to offer any type of military support on a World War type level, because if they did, they know that the strength of the United States military, along with its allies, would damn near collapse Russia even more than they're already experiencing. And China only cares about the oil. They want to make sure that their interests with regard to the oil that comes from that region are kept intact. China to this day has never pledged any type of military support in the wake of any type of conflict between the United States and Israel, simply because it's bad for business. And North Korea, that has to be a joke, right? North Korea only cares about North Korea. They're not even close to being considered any type of threat to the United States military. Oh, and speaking of the United States military, what those B-2 bombers just did showed the entire world, including Russia and China, that we are still the baddest and most technologically advanced military superpower in the world. The effectiveness of what the United States just achieved essentially told the whole world, including Russia and China, that nobody, not a single country on this earth, could even come close to the strength and prowess of the United States military. In other words, the world just saw in a brief demonstration why we don't have free healthcare in the United States. The actions that the United States took against Iran basically assured that there will not be a World War III III anytime soon because no country would be stupid enough to go toe-to-toe against our military. Well, what about Trump? Was he allowed to do that? He is a dictator. He went against Congress to authorize that, and he should be impeached for it. That's open to your opinion, but let me remind you that the last time the United States had congressional approval to enact any type of war was on June 4th, 1942. That means every single conflict since Korean War, Vietnam, Persian Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan, those were all done without congressional approval. Yet despite that, for some reason, when Trump authorizes the destruction of 3 Iranian nuclear test sites, somehow he and only he is a dictator who did not get congressional approval in order to destroy Iran's ability to produce a nuclear weapon. Okay, fine, but Trump is still bad. He didn't have to do that. Trump campaigned on starting no new wars. He is a bad man who hates Iran and wanted to start another pointless war. Well, might I remind you what previous Democratic politicians have said about Iran. Hillary Clinton, quote, whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear program, we would be able to totally obliterate them, end quote. Obama, quote, they can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will face a United States president, me, who said we are not going to take any options off the table, end quote. Kamala Harris, quote, Iran has American blood on their hands. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities, end quote. So yes, even if Kamala Harris was president, she would have been in the exact same situation Donald Trump has been in, having the same beliefs as the very democratic politicians that you all idolize when it comes to eliminating Iran's abilities to have nuclear weapons, which is exactly what Donald Trump just did. Well, what about retaliation? Is Iran going to retaliate against the United States? The answer to that question is, well, it depends. Iran does not have the capability as a military to attack the mainland United States. They do not possess any type of long-range, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and their Air Force and Navy are a pathetic joke. Plus, even if somehow they were able to attack the mainland US, it would be met with a response that would essentially completely destroy Iran down to glass and force a new regime change, which they would not risk. The worst that Iran could do could be to retaliate against US military bases that are in the region. But again, these bases are prepared and are on high alert for that possibility, and such a move would also assure continued destruction to their regime. Well, what about sleeper cells being activated in the United States? And yeah, that is possible and is something to be aware of. There's no telling how many people, sorry to say, that during the last administration may have come into the country illegally who were sleeper cells for Iran or other terrorist sympathizers who might commit acts of terror if called upon by the terrorist Iranian government. And the only thing to say to that is to just exercise caution. Be mindful of your surroundings. Be careful in large groups of people, especially while this is still fresh and a developing story. But just to clarify, no, Donald Trump did not start World War III. He is not some crazy dictator who wants to plunge us into another endless war. There will be no World War III at the moment. The United States carried out an operation that eliminated a terrorist-run country's ability to develop nuclear weapons, the result of which shows the entire world that the United States is not a force to be reckoned with, even to the likes of Russia and China. It's called peace through strength. I'm not saying you have to agree or that you have to go out there and support Donald Trump. I'm simply saying to not fall for this bullshit media manipulation that the United States and our president have started World War III, because that's categorically not true. The truth is that we are now further away from World War III than we have ever been. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't believe the media's lies. Think logically. Everything